How's it going, guys? So today we are going to do the water pump. We're going to install the water pump, the thermostat, coolant hoses, and all that stuff. I'm going to show you a lot of tips about that. We're probably going to go ahead in the same video and knock the studs out of the exhaust headers, manifolds, and get all that prepped up. But for right now, let's go ahead and get this water pump done, and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so we just installed the Altenburg water pump. And you can see it's mounted on rubber, if you can see that, mounted on rubber bushing, so it has a little bit of movement to it. That's just the way they set those up. You could do an aftermarket pump. All of them had such bad reviews. These are in the Amazon store. They're like $225. They bounce up and down from $200 to $250, right in that range. That's a lot of money, but on this car, that's like almost impossible to get to. So you definitely don't want to have to do it on the car. So let's go ahead and talk about the coolant pipe that goes through the engine. And make sure you guys are even getting the shot. So this guy, we had some dealings with this on that 135i. It has a permanent clamp on here. And on this engine, it's pretty easy to get to. It bolts right there, goes down. You could actually get it off of there without taking on 130, N54, you have turbos right here, so and it's on the back of the engine, so you can't get to that to replace that oil ring or nothing. The oil ring isn't that common for going bad. This one's really good shape. What goes bad usually is this hose. So what I did on that 135i, we just took our Dremel and cut this clamp off, and it was so freaking strong I had to cut it in 2 or 3 different spots and break it off. Then we just took a radiator hose and with a bend and clipped the right section we needed out of it, put it on there, it worked perfect. It's still working today. That was almost 2 years ago. So what we're going to do here, we have 2 little tiny E-Torque screws that hold that to the block. We're going to go ahead and take those out. We're going to use a little bit of our lubricant on this O-ring. This stuff is really good. This Works lube oil. The company sent that to me. And it's not supposed to harm any kind of rubber or plastic. Non-petroleum, you might say. So we're going to put a little bit out on there. We're going to go into your clamp, and if you're doing this on the engine stand, you have to keep in mind, some sorry ass is going to have to take this back off in the car. So make sure your clamps, be kind, make sure your clamps are all positioned correctly. We're going to put this one on like this so it's pointing down. I don't know if that's right, probably pointed a little bit back because the subframe on this car goes right here. So let's go ahead and do that. And we're going to snap it in all in one piece. Just like so. Everything you see done really good. These little guys get torqued down to 7 foot-pounds. I'm not going to use this torque wrench because in the car you're not going to be able to use a torque wrench on this. But if you have to buy this pipe, they're pretty expensive. I want to say they're around $100 for that. I have an extra one here. We might keep it or I might sell it. I don't know, but it's in good shape also. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and torque these down with a 1/4 inch drive ratchet. Snug the first one. I feel like you guys aren't getting the whole shot here. Don't break it off in the block. That's all you need. Good to go. And then next, let's go ahead and tighten this clamp up. We'll position it where we want to position it, which is kind of facing a little bit backwards here. And we're just using a 1/4 inch drive 6-point. That does those small E-Torques and it does the clamps on this car. So let's make sure that we are positioned right where we want that. Just about right there. snug it up real good. Don't overdo that. You'll twist it right off. And next up, we have the Mo, or however you pronounce it, thermostat. Now, I thought it would came with new thermostat bolts, but it did not. And it actually says Bear on the thermostat, which I think that Mo and Bear bought each other out, or somebody bought one another out. I can't remember which way it was. Here's that. Check the connector before you put it on. Make sure the connector is not broken. It is not broken. This is going to install, should be just like that. And then we have the bolts for that right here. Let's go ahead and do that. That's it. You don't need that very tight either. So that's installed new thermostat. In fact, the old thermostat, whenever I was turning this thing around, actually just sheared off and the bolts were stuck in the old water pump. So there's that. Now we're going to have to probably use the hoses from the 5 Series because I think they're a little bit longer, a little bit different. And we also got to deal with this oil cooler situation too. So let me go ahead and I guess we're just going to go and pull off the oil cooler right now and these 2 hoses. We'll leave the old pump and thermostat on. The pump on here is probably still good. It's got 92,000 miles on it, but I just don't want to put it, you know, it's like you cut some corners, but you're going to shoot yourself in the foot on the way out. If it was on a 3 Series, maybe I would have reused it. This 5 Series being all-wheel drive is so hard to get to that. So hard. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull the oil cooler off, pull these 2 hoses off. We'll be right back. Okay, so we just sent both of this off the old engine. We cleaned up the groove really good. I don't really want to put that in the parts washer because I feel like we're going to do more damage than good. Well, I'll tell you what though. We need to pull that filter out before we put it on that engine. That filter is going to be full of trash. We'll do that here in a second. Here's the old gasket off of it. You can see that edge is all flat. That pointy edge, so it goes like that and pops down in there, and the edge that meets the cylinder head gets flat. So we got a brand new gasket for that. We're going to reinstall that. But yeah, let's go ahead and get that filter out there. Let's do that before we reinstall this. We don't want any of the trash from this old engine in the new engine. Okay, so we got the old housing pulled off. We just got it installed. Man, that oil filter lid was freaking tight. I mean, you see that quite a bit. I could barely get it off. I took a simple green washed all the insides out and used our drain bucket and got it really clean, dried it all out. We cleaned all the gasket surface stuff, put the new gasket in, bolted it up. I don't remember what the torque to these were. I think they're around 15 foot-pounds. Don't quote me on that. I just did it like you would do in the car, just tighten it to where I think it should be, which should be around that. We have a brand new man filter to put in it. I put the link in the Amazon store for this too, but it's hard to here, let's do this. There's 2 filters, one for N54 and one for this, and it's hard to distinguish the difference between the 2 of them. But just a standard issue man filter. We'll just set it in there for right now. Probably we need to put the new O-ring on the lid and do all that. And then we have the thing that goes on the very tip of the oil filter housing, and then the crush washer for the oil pan. So, I mean, that's pretty much all for that. It is a little more nuisance to have the oil cooler on here, but it probably is a lot better for the engine. And one more thing I was going to talk about these clamps. Every one of these clamps, before I took them off, these are all the OEM clamps we still use, or reused. We take a little bit of penetrating oil or WD-40 and spray them before we even try to take them off. And that kind of ensures they don't strip out. That gives them a little more lubricant. But all these hoses, this main hose has been replaced. And we use the hose off the 130,000 mile car. The other one we're going to throw in the bin. We're making a bin here of extras. We'll keep around on hand. So, yeah, okay, we'll keep going here. Alright guys, so we're working on, let me see here. Let me get you situated. Working on the exhaust manifolds. You remember all 4 of the, 3 of the studs snapped off on the collector. That's real common. In the car, that's real hard to fix because if you hit on the collector with a hammer, your chances of destroying that cat is very good. And it seems like it has so much flex in it, it's hard to even get them out, period. That's just an unfortunate situation. You're forced to grind them off flat and drill them out, and it's a nightmare. That could burn a lot of time. So we already knocked these out. I'm going to show you how I knock them out. Now everybody has their own opinion, what works and what doesn't. So I just do what works for me. Been doing this for decades now. So we have this one. We have not knocked those out yet. We're going to take that out there. I use my trailer to knock those out, believe it or not, and I'll show you how to do that right now. Okay, so when you're working over your manifolds, there's a couple things on these cars. Here we have both oxygen sensors are in the manifolds. They're both okay. We're just being careful with the wiring. On all these newer N52 and N54, they have lead rings instead of gaskets. So we'll have to make sure and take these off or take them out of the engine, and we'll end up with a good set of 6 when it's all said and done, but you got to do that. So what I do, make sure you got you in the picture, is we just take this, and this one might be too damn long to do it. Maybe we'll hook it on there. Usually they're a lot shorter. This one's pretty long. We're gonna have to probably find a new one of those. Put that right there. So I'll just take this guy and we're just gonna hit it. We'll put it right in the corner so it can't bend a flange. And here we go. The same way, we hit the flange a little bit, but it's okay. So what we're gonna do, we'll take it inside, we'll knock these out with a screwdriver. They're just loose now, or a punch, and we'll take something to clean these flanges up on both ends, on the exhaust in the car and on this, and should have some more of these somewhere. That one's still pretty good though. Should be able to use that no problem. But that's how you knock the studs out. If you can't get it out of the car to do it though, it's pretty difficult to do. So I learned the stay pocket on my trailer is perfect for this. It's super thick metal, but you have to have a 4-pound, you don't have to. We're using a 4-pound sledge, right? So a regular hammer, it's gonna be real tough to do that. You could also use a sledgehammer if you're real careful with it. It takes a lot of force to knock those out. All right guys, so here we are, back to the voiceover. The microphone messed up again. It's the next day. So we have the engine here, been working on it a little bit, and we took the vacuum, or taking the vacuum pump out. Thought I'd stop and grab the camera. We got the engine on the engine stand. Everything's together and just about ready to put in. We got the belt laying on top. Of course, I got the ISO and the camera's adjusted wrong, so you know, it's all dark and weird. We're gonna have to take the drill. I'm gonna show you here in a little bit. Take a drill and drill that hole for the pin out. It's very tight. We had to tap it in. We're gonna make it so it goes in easily. So if I have to ever retime this car when the engine is in the car, we could actually do it. But we gotta take it off the stand and the flex plate off before we could do that. And so that's pretty much about it as far as that goes. And let me see here. Babbling on about something, I'm not really sure what. It's hard to do these voiceovers sometimes. So here we have the vacuum pump. The cover is off the vacuum pump. And I was trying to get this thing out, but the engine was so cooked that the bolts actually stripped on it. And it actually twisted my my bit. I'll show you here in 1 second. But that's the pump that drives the brake booster that runs off the timing chain with one sprocket. And it has a hose that comes out and goes to the booster. So you can see it has a lid, and the lid's a one-time use lid, and it's stuck a screwdriver through it and pried it out and popped it out. And that reveals the bolts, lets you get out. I think you could buy just the lid. You can see there's no way to get it out even with a special tool without ruining it. So you can see here the timing chain runs down and it has a Torx bolt there and a Torx bolt on the front of the pump that holds the chain, the sprocket on. And the one we stripped out was actually one of the 3 that holds the pump to the case. But after doing all this and looking it up, it's like $70 for a brand new one. Well, we try to be nice and show you something, and of course it doesn't work out. This engine was so freaking torched that it actually, the bolt was so tight, it actually twisted up my Torx bit. What the hell? Man. Well, after a little further inspection, a brand new one's only like $70, so who gives a crap, right? For this, it's not worth it. Ordinarily, if your engine isn't freaking destroyed, like this one is, and cooked to nobody's belief, that's how you take it out. And those 3 bolts right there, and that's it. That allows you to drop it at the bottom. To actually truly replace it, well, you could do it like this, because you never have to take off the sprocket, right? Now, if you have a sprocket problem, you're going to have to pull that timing chain out, and which ordinarily wouldn't be that big of a deal, but our current situation here, it's kind of a big deal, because everything's like seized together. But anyhow, that's how you do it. That's what the vacuum pump is, and a lot of guys just scare you off from doing that. Ordinarily, that never happens. That was just because some dumbass nuked this engine to nobody's belief. So anyhow, what the plan is here now, get the rest of this crap out of here, and we end up with a good wiring harness. We're getting sidetracked. We'll just kind of roll with it, right? That's how this channel does. Get sidetracked easy and talk about something different, but that's how you guys learn stuff. Where's it at here? Somewhere, some asshole clipped off. I guess that goes to the gauges inside the car. But the rest of the harness is complete. So you could, it's only 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 12, 13 wires there. I don't know how much those are. I don't know if I should sell that or keep that around here for just in case disease. I don't mean by using the whole harness, because the harness doesn't ever go bad on these. A lot of guys want to replace the harness. That's never the issue. Well, I'm not going to say it's never the issue. Usually it's not the issue unless you hook something up backwards and cooked it. But it'd be nice to have those on the shelf in a tote, so if I ever have a plug that's broken, I have a whole set of plugs for these cars. And that might come in more handy in selling it for, I don't know how much money. Okay, so here's the crankshaft sensor. I was hoping this is going to be good so I could throw it on the shelf, but it's not good. It's all smashed up from that happening. You know what this reminds me of? Set this over here out of the way. No, I better not set there. Get everything all freaking easy. Put it back down there. Gotta watch where you set stuff in here to run the workbench top. This reminds me of, I used to be a big Chevy guy. Used to do a lot of 350 stuff, LS stuff, and this failure, that reminds me of a V8. You guys are gonna be pissed at me saying this, but it does. Reminds me of V8 Chevy when one of those comes apart. They're notorious about blowing apart at higher RPM. And you know, the true story behind that is a lot of the guys like Street Speed 717, a lot of those guys that buy the brand new Corvettes that go out and make 700-800 horsepower, that's all fine and dandy, but that's like brand new stuff, right? Or they have a Texas Speed engine, you know, morphed into an engine that isn't actually that same engine anymore. It has nothing to do with the original engine. But when those come apart, it looks like that. It barfs everything in the oil pan, just grenades the whole engine. And I've blown up a few of them in my heyday, that even the intake was broken. Every piece in the whole engine was trashed, even the intake manifold was shattered. And that's what this reminds me of. But for a BMW to come apart, for inline six, really inline six, anything to do this, man, and at 92,000 miles, that must have took some extra special driving to make that work out. Okay, so we got everything off the floor, got the old engine outside. What a freaking nasty mess that was. We have a couple spots in our gray foam that leaked through or leaked around the edge of it. So I think we're gonna do, I got the gray foam outside, we just cleaned it all off. We'll go out there and show you, because I want to show you something else too. It's like a freaking parts warehouse around this place. So that's what we did. Took Simple Green, cleaned this thing off. It didn't come totally clean, but it's clean enough, right? And it's actually the bottom there. And I will I can't use the front either. It's got the damn license plate. I'll take the license plate off probably. And we'll nudge that car in there if that's the right height. I don't know for sure if it is or not. But we're gonna have to do something like that. I can't use the zero turn. The zero turn is going in the shop tomorrow. Lumberyard whistle. It's down the road from us. The zero turn is going in the shop tomorrow. It is getting a bad left-hand drive unit already. It only has 60 hours on it. 40 or 60 hours on it. It's only a year old. If I try to push that in there with that, it's gonna break it. It's gonna way break it. And so that's what the deal is. That's the next project. So I think maybe I'll have to call in some reinforcement help for this one. Shove this thing in there, hopefully, and see how it works. Okay, so we don't have the car in here yet, as you can see. We drug the mat back in. We'll move it back in place here in a second. So we got the engine stand off. All that was good. Now I did what I promised I'm gonna do. I drilled that hole just a little bit, and before I could barely get the pin in there, and now it goes right in just like it should. Where it's still snug, but before it was too tight. You basically had to tap it in there or something, and in the car that doesn't work. Okay, so we got it in here. The CRV pushed it in, but barely. That thing makes like no torque at all. So we just put a tire in between. Ow! The tire between the two. It didn't do anything to the back bumper. The back bumper still looks just like it did. It's just as messed up as it was in the first place. And so I think what we're gonna do here, we're gonna end the video. We got this engine up on the hoist. We're gonna let the hoist down so it doesn't seep down. And that's gonna be it. So hopefully you guys enjoy the video. And I guess the next video will be putting the engine in the car. Thanks for watching.